Jayam Vishnupadvaham Parijakacharya, Patodataka Srimad of Divine Grace, A.C. Bhagavatam Swami Maharaj, Prabhupada Ki, His Confounder Charya Shri Prabhupada Ki, Jayam Vishnupadvaham Parijakacharya, Patodataka Srimad, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, Prabhupada Ki, Grantarachana Bhagavatam Ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 8, titled Lord Nrsingadev Slays the King of the Demons. Text number 42. You got it? Mhm.
Chapter 8:42. Gosh, I think I did it.
Uh,
8:42.
Shri Indra Uvacha
Srinuvacha.
Pratyanita Parama Bhavata Chaktya Naswabhaga.
Raja. Oh, I can't read it so small.
You want to trade?
Sure.
Is this any bigger?
It's definitely bigger.
All right.
Thank you. Sorry, it's really loud.
So, so Pratyanita Parama Bhavata Jayata Naswabhaga.
Rajanita Puja. Shayatita Naswava.
Daitya Krantam Herdaya Kamalam Tadgriham Padya Bodhi
Dacha Grantam Vinaya Kamalam Tarikam Prajabodhi.
Bhavagrastam Kiyaridam Amunatan Shushrushatam Te
Stam Kiya Kamahona Sushishatam Ten.
Mukti Stefam Nahi Bahumatan Narsimha Pariki
Mukti Krisana Hivama Nasimhala Paraikim.
Pratyanita Parama Bhavata Chaitanya Swabhagam
Prajanita Paramasvarta Tvayata Nasvabhavi.
Daitya Krantam Herdaya Kamala Tadriha Pratyabodhi
Aja Lanta Hridaya Kamalam Tavi and Prajabodhi.
Kalagrastam Kiyaridam Unata Shushrushatam Te
Lam Stam Kitam Susritam Te.
Muktis Tesham Nahi Ahumata Narasimha Parai
Jiste Sanani Bahu Mata Narasiham Pahaikim.
Patyanita Parama Bhavata Trayata Naswambaga
Janita Paramata Trayatana Swavaga.
Daitya Kratam Herdaya Kamalam Tadgriham Pratyabodhi
Gratam Hidayat Kamalam Tat Prajabhori.
Kalagrastam Kiyaridam Ahunata Shushatam Te
Lam Stam Kiyam Diyama Anata Sushi Satam Te.
Muktis Tesham Nahi Pautmanarasim Aparayiki
Jiste Samnahi Bahu Mata Narasimha Paraikim. Prajanita Patrayatana Svavaga.
Pratyanita Parama Bhavata Jayata Naswabhaga
Daija Grantam Hridayat Kamalam Tatham Prajobodhi.
Daitya Krantam Herdaya Kamalam Tadgri Ham Pratya Bodhi
Labristam Kiyam Dhammam Anata Sushi Satam Te.
Kalakristam Kiyaridam Ahunata Shushrustam Te
Jiste Samna Vipapa Narasimha Paraikim.
Muktis Tesham Nahi Bahumata Narasimha Parayiki Shri Indra Uvacha
Indra Vacha.
Indra, the king of heaven, said,
Indra, king of heaven, said,
Pratyanita,
Yamita,
recovered, Parama, O Supreme, Bhavata,
Ta,
by your lordship,
Ta,
shares in the sacrifices.
to sacrifices.
Daita Akrata,
Daija Akron,
afflicted by the demon.
afflicted by the demon.
Hridaya Kamala,
Aya Kamu,
the lotus-like pores of our hearts.
lotus like cord,
Tatgraham,
Vihamu,
which is actually your residence.
see your residence.
Pratyabodhi, it has been illuminated. Talagrasta, devoured by time. Kiyat,
Yeah,
insignificant.
see that.
Idam, this world. Aho, alas. Nanta, O Lord. Shushrushata,
Vishushata,
for those who are always engaged in the service.
of engage in the service.
Te, of you. Mukti,
Two,
liberation from material bondage.
liberation from material bondage.
Tesham, of them the pure devotees.
The period of
Na, not. He, indeed. Bahumata,
Ta,
thought very important.
or
Narasimha,
Arasuma,
O Lord Narasimhadev, half lion and half human being.
Lord Simhade, half lion, half human being.
Aparai king,
But I king
then what is the use of other possessions?
is use and their possession.
Translation of purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. King Indra said, O Supreme Lord, you are our deliverer and protector. Our shares of sacrifices, which are actually yours, have been recovered from the demon by you. Because the demoniac king Hiranyakashipu was most fearsome, our hearts, which are your permanent abode, were only retained by him. Now, by your presence, the gloom and darkness in our hearts have been dissipated. O Lord, for those who always engage in your service, which is more exalted than liberation, all material opulence is insignificant. They do not even care for liberation, not to speak of the benefits of kama, artha, and dharma. Purport. In this material world, there are two kinds of people, the devatas, demigods, and the asuras, demons. Although the demigods are attached to material enjoyments, they are devotees of the Lord who act according to the rules and regulations of the Vedic injunction. During the reign of Hiranyakashipu, everyone was disturbed in the routine duties of Vedic civilization. When Hiranyakashipu was killed, all the demigods, who had always been disturbed by Hiranyakashipu, felt relief in their general way of life. Because the government in Kali Yuga is full of demons, the living conditions of devotees are always disturbed. Devotees cannot perform yajna, and thus they cannot partake of the remnants of food offered in yajna for the worship of Lord Vishnu. The hearts of the demigods are always filled with fear of the demons, and therefore they cannot think of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The engagement of the demigods is to think of the Lord always within the cores of their hearts. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, Yoginamapi sarvesham mad gatin antadatmana Shravan Bhavate Yomam Same Yukta Tamomata. And of all yogis, he who always abides in me with great faith, worships me in transcendental loving service, is most intimately united with me in yoga. It is the highest of all. The demigods fully absorb themselves in meditation upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead to become perfect yogis. But because of the presence of demons, their hearts are filled with the activities of the demons. But their hearts, which are meant to be the abode of the Supreme Lord, are practically occupied by the demons. All the demigods felt relieved when Hiranyakashipu was dead, for they could easily think of the Lord. They could then receive the results of sacrifice and become happy, even though in the material world. Om Vignanatyanandasya, Gnanjana Shlakaya, Chakshamatalyana, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Rama Hare Hare. So we are past the point where Hiranyakashipu has been killed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sringadev. But Lord Sringadev's anger has not been pacified. So they are still this very fierce form of the Lord, half man, half lion, who is still in an angry mood. And he's been killing demons, and he's not been pacified yet. So the various Sura personalities, the various godly personalities, offering different prayers. Yesterday, we heard about Lord Shiva's prayer, uh, and Lord Brahma, and we'll hear from the rishis, the pitris, the siddhas, vidyadharas, all sorts of people. And Indra, as the universal administrator, king of the demigods, is talking about the share of sacrifices. Krishna talks about in the Bhagavad Gita, he talks about the cycle of sacrifice. That sacrifice is born from dharma, from prescribed duties, and sacrifice brings the rain. It's very important. So without rain, you don't have food grains. Prabhupada, in the purport to those verses, talks about, of course, if you're vegetarian like us, then directly you eat the food grains. But even if somebody is a meat eater, then they also require food grains because the animals that they eat have to eat something. Actually, it requires more food grains to be a meat eater than it does to be a vegetarian. Just a little interesting fact. Uh, so, yes, Indra is talking about the cycle of sacrifices and how they were being stolen by Hiranyakashipu as he was the administrator. He, was, he forcefully took over the administration of the universe. And now they have been restored to the demigods, who are the proper administrators. As Prabhupada mentions in the purport, there are two types of people in the material world, generally speaking. The suras or devatas, who are the demigods or righteous persons, and the asuras, or the demons, unrighteous persons. And the proper administrators are the devatas, the godly people. Uh, this is true both in the uh, kind of celestial, subtle realms, where a lot of this drama takes place, but it is also true on this planet. Krishna is represented among humans by the monarch, by the king. And if you look in the way that Prabhupada talks about it, this applies to all executive heads of governments. You know, the kind of viewpoint that Prabhupada gave, if you read all the statements on these things, is that, okay, he wasn't so fond of democracy, but it doesn't matter so much how the executive head got in there, whether it was democracy or monarchy or whatever. Uh, but once they are in there, they should do a good job. Right? A good job, meaning working according to, as he says in this purport, the rules and regulations of the Vedic injunctions. That he should work as a proper representative of Krishna, instead of just working for his own sense gratification or even the sense gratification of his constituents. And this is a very different standard than practically or even ideally the vision of the leader is today. Practically speaking, what the leaders of today do is work for their own sense gratification. I'll just do what I want, enrich myself, have whatever I want, and uh, yeah, who cares about duty, right? Duty is something that I talk about to the constituents to get them to vote for me. And even ideally, people say the what people think of as the ideal in this day and age is that the executive head works for my sense gratification. I vote for one person or another because I think that um, they will help me gratify my senses, get what I want better than the other guy will. There's practically no conception of the idea that the executive head should rule according to Dharma, according to the rules and regulations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In fact, if we claimed that, if anybody claimed to be ruling according to the rules and regulations of Dharma at any level, of any, whether the full, Vedic Dharma or even the Dharma as revealed in other traditions, then people would be very upset, actually. They would say, you have to separate the church and state. Why should your religious ideas influence how I live my life? Of course, Dharma is not exactly a religious idea. It is a spiritual science. Um, Dharma, every level, whether you're talking about the more material side of Dharma, the Vanashram Dharma, or the spiritual side, Jaiva Dharma, is actually scientific. It's not a religious belief per se. But people think about it like, and they say, no, 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 we can't have that in our government. You cannot rule according to the rules and regulations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so this Kali Yuga government is termed as demoniac. Krishna gives the symptoms of demoniac persons in Bhagavad Gita. If so much I have today, so much I will have tomorrow. This is my enemy. Let me destroy him. Um, the whole world is simply made of for sex desire and sense gratification. All these things uh, are the demoniac mentality. We've all read Bhagavad Gita. And this is given political shape in the government of today in practically every country. It is easier to say what uh, activities of the government are not demoniac than it is to say which ones are. We were talking recently, I think last Thursday, about this Artemis so-called moon mission. Of course, we recognize that humans cannot go to the moon, so some deception, like they did back in Apollo. But however people feel about that, we can recognize that it's also a deception in that it is distracting people from the war that is going very badly for the United States. And uh, we understand that uh, the war is also a distraction from them not unredacting the files that they released, right? So, they didn't want to be named, so they decided to kill a bunch of people in the Middle East. It's kind of the standard political move. And then that wasn't going well. So they decided, okay, we'll have people slingshot around the moon, come back. They aren't even wanting to land there this time. We'll just go and come back. Yeah, this is kind of a side point, but Prabhupada uh, at times said, even if you did go to the moon, what's the point, right? You bring back some rocks from outer space. This time, they're not even bringing back the rocks, right? Because they're just going, looping, like kind of figure eighting around the moon and coming back. So what? They're going to come back with some pictures. And they spend billions of dollars or taxpayer money to fund this. Of course, I don't necessarily have a right to complain. I don't pay taxes because I don't really make any money. Uh, but there's so many demoniac things, and that's just what is in the news recently, right? There are so many other um, examples. I heard the statistic that um, actually 5/6 approximately of the price of meat is subsidized by the government. So, a $5 or $6 um, piece of meat would actually be, around $30 or more if it was not funded by tax money. Right? So it is not that the government is just neutral in what people eat. They are specifically wanting you to eat meat, which we understand is extremely demoniac, uh, especially since a lot of the meat eaten is cow meat. Um, so and they don't. It's not like they have to fund that specific form of so-called food, right? What people eat. But a lot of devotees sometimes make the point that ahimsa milk is very expensive. Of course, we have to take care of cows for their entire life. But the government could easily take all of that money that it's spending to make meat cheap and give it to ahimsa farms and make ahimsa milk cheap, right? And then everybody could have ahimsa milk. Uh, but they don't because they are demoniac, right? Because they have this mentality uh, of, of being the enjoyer and of being envious of other living entities. And as such, they um, make a very disturbing atmosphere for the entire world. It says here, especially for the devotees. But we understand that actually everybody in Kali Yuga is disturbed. It's not like only the devotees are having a bad time in the demoniac society and everybody else is, just happy all the time. Actually, it's only the devotees that are happy in demoniac societies. It's not because of the society, it's despite the society. It's because they are devotees. But people are so disturbed. There's this idea that all of these trappings of modern civilization or Western civilization, however you want to term it, is actually making us happy. Kind of the propaganda um, or education, whichever term you want to use, indoctrination, is that in the previous eras, they were all superstitious and it's kind of a dog eat dog world and nobody knew what was going on. And you know, the kings and priests ruled with an iron fist. But then there was the Enlightenment, um, and we kind of came out of our dogmatic slumber, to borrow Kant's term. Uh, and we had ideas like freedom and democracy and liberty. And now life is just wonderful because we can go pick up things from the supermarket and go on Tinder and all of these things. But if you look at the actual results, people are miserable, right? I talked before, I think last time I gave class, and I talked about it in more detail previously, about the happiness suicide paradox. They measure they measure everything nowadays. But one of the things they measure is uh, the happiness index of every country in the world. And even in some countries like the United States, even more granular. You can get happiness indexes for states and even for some cities. And if you look at how they calculate these indices, it's all of the things that you think should make you happy, right? Wealth, social mobility, freedom to make choices in your own life, all these things. Uh, but if you measure the suicide rate, it correlates positively with the happiness rates. That as happier people commit more suicides, according to this research, right? Of course, we can understand from that, and actually not only suicides, but also substance abuse, murders, even in parts of Europe, are all done by the happiest people in the world, which sounds very insane, actually. And it is, because what they are measuring as happiness is not actually happiness, right? They're measuring what should make you happy. But we can understand from the actual results that because we all know happy people don't commit suicide, right? Uh, so you measure from the actual results what the true score is. That the people who have these things are not actually happy. That what the demoniac propaganda is telling us should make us happy with actually the goal of life actually makes us more miserable. And so we should understand these things, that actually accepting this demoniac worldview, this demoniac way of living, will make us miserable. It won't actually make us happy. Sometimes we think, due to our condition, that, oh, you know, we have so many rules and regulations in devotional service. We can't do this, we can't do that. The karmis, they can do everything, right? They don't have any restrictions. They're enjoying so much, and we just have to sit here and um, just renounce, right? We should understand that's not actually the case. Krishna says in the fifth chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Vihi Swarshaja Boga, Dukkha Yunaya Amate. Samsparsha is touch. Right? So Samsparshaja Boga is born from the touch of material enjoyment. And Dukkha Yunaya is the source of all dukkha, all misery. But actually, anybody who engages in attempting to enjoy separately from the Supreme Personality of Godhead uh, is actually suffering. It actually is a miserable condition. So, Srila Prabhupada taught us to act for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is actually the way to enjoy. We cannot enjoy by uh, our own program, by trying to enjoy separately. We can only have any sort of happiness by participating in Krishna's happiness, by participating in Krishna's enjoyment, because we are part and parcel of Krishna. And Prabhupada was talking about yajna in his purport, um, and the results of yajna. Of course, the yajna for this age is the Sankirtan yajna, the chanting of the holy names of the Lord, which is the means of salvation for this age. And also, of course, we use Sankirtan as well for book distribution, which is also, distributing Prabhupada's Kirtan, right? Uh, the teachings of Srila Prabhupada, in order to have this yajna for the pleasure of Lord Vishnu. But uh, of course, we are doing this in the context of a demoniac society. So sometimes there is resistance to the propagation of the holy name of the Lord, of the teachings of the Shastras. Now, this can be done in so many ways. I know some places, back in my book distribution days, uh, we would go to learn how to hide from security, basically. So I remember at Rutgers Camden campus, they were very against us doing books. So of course we would go anyway, but just be on the lookout for um, security guards, things like that. Um, I remember that uh, one group that we uh, had a lot of trouble with for a little bit was the ASPCA, the American Society for the Protection of Animals, something like that. Was interesting because we are also very into animal welfare, more than the ASPCA actually, since they serve meat at their functions. Uh, but they were upset that we would take the good street corners, right? Because if any of you have been in a big city, like Philadelphia, there's always people vying for street corners, right? Doing signups right on. So like ASPCA, you know, Save the Children, Planned Parenthood, all of these places. And I learned that the local leaders of all these organizations get together at the beginning of the week and draw up what's called the turf map. Who gets what corner what day, right? So they aren't all standing in the same spots. So they kind of rotate the good corners. Because we were a religious organization, we didn't have to do that, right? So we could just go anywhere we wanted. So we just went to the good street corner every day and distributed lots of books. I didn't personally distribute so much books because I was not so skillful, but there are some people who could do, 50, 100 books a day. Uh, so, sometimes people would get upset with us. So many other things, about even sometimes legal restrictions to what you can and can't do. What to speak in other countries, like, uh, China or the Middle East, where there's very severe legal repercussions for preaching Krishna consciousness. So, how can we act in uh, this, or what can we do in this society that is sometimes um, inimical to the propagation of Krishna consciousness? Uh, Srila Prabhupada had kind of two answers, broadly speaking. One is do it anyway. Uh, of course, we have um, examples in our own community of people who did that in a very glorious way. Um, and the second means is establish our own communities where people are free and encouraged to fully practice Krishna consciousness in a favorable environment. Uh, in a fun ashram society, if you want to use that term, even somebody who becomes somehow or another not so serious about the process of devotional service will still be getting immense benefits just by going to the social programs and you know the uh, in the community, right? Because if you talk about the outside world, in the kind of broader society, if somebody falls away, then they go back to clubbing or meat eating or whatever. The social programs are like a football game or something like that, which is of no benefit to anybody. It's just a waste of time. Uh, but in a Von Ashram society where the entire community is at some level practicing Krishna consciousness. Then, if somebody, eh, due to circumstances or nartas, becomes not so serious, then, it's not like they become a hermit. They go to all the social functions and, they still see the deities take prashadam and everything. So it's a lot easier to course correct to get back on the right track. So then the establishment of all of these Varnashram communities also serves as an example to the wider society as well. Because as I was saying earlier, pretty much everybody in society is miserable. Uh, so they can see that, oh, these devotees are um, mm, actually happy. They're actually, enjoying their life, living in this simple Krishna conscious way. Then it is attractive. They say, oh, you know, let me join. And it's like, okay, you can join, but you have to follow the rules and regulations. Then they at least come to human mode of life and, become by association, eventually the devotional way of living as well. So all of these different programs, the Varashram mission, the simple living, high thinking mission, and the also Jaiva Dharma mission, of chanting, reading, distributing books, etc. These two are complementary, so we need to push both of them forward very seriously. So I'll stop here. We have about 9 minutes before the doors are supposed to open for any comments or questions. There are many senior devotees, glorious personalities here. If there are any comments or questions or complaints? Yes, Sir Paul.
Complete.
Oh, complaints.
I was not able to hear it contemplate loud.
Hmm.
There's no loudspeaker on.
Oh, there's one in the Pujari room. It's like if you open the door, it's behind the door. Right, so it's next to the washing machine. Yeah,
And on.
that's a button in the back. Yeah, I'll show you.
And then comment.
Yes, come.
Thank you so much for a wonderful class. It's New Year.
Thank you.
It is our glorious spiritual scientist,
Hmm.
member of Bhagavatam. Wow, very nice.
Hmm.
Very nice.
Thank you.
That was nice to hear. For me, I was unpacked like so much in your discussions.
Hmm.
Again, John knows. It's very interesting when he taught, about vegetarian, that the Christian John to stay in ashram
Hmm.
Bowler. It's very unique. And one day we first met, he said some really amazing things, and especially preaching about it. So we a lot of Christians, obviously, we all know that.
Yeah.
That some of the lead-ins were like, we already know that Jesus was vegetarian with Isaiah 7:14, 7:50.
Hmm.
But in Genesis, which means the beginning, take help our
Yeah.
Christians. Remember how Prabhupada always said, "You're not here to bash.
Yeah.
Help them be better Christians. Help the Buddhists be better Buddhists." So
Yeah.
um,
Hmm.
and in there, he said, you know that the lions and tigers in the beginning are vegetarian.
Yeah.
You don't have that.
Yeah.
That's like what Genesis 1.
I don't know the exact verse,
Yeah.
but yeah, I know at least according to tradition. I grew up in Judaism, and yeah, according to tradition, until the fall,
So,
so Adam and Eve ate the fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, uh, which people say was an apple, although it isn't specifically mentioned what kind of fruit. That yeah, everything was vegetarian.
You have the breath of it. This was you have the breath of life.
Hmm.
You give it
Yeah.
a total relationship.
Hmm.
This is also mentioned in the shots, like uh, bad is meant to consume meat, like tigers, lions, and all this. Dogs and something like this were vegetarian.
Um, I don't know a specific um, place like in Shastra, but the Vedic Shastras don't have the concept of the fall in the same way that Judeo-Christian Shastras do. Right? Because the way that kind of the Bible talks about it is that there was this idyllic state, the Garden of Eden, and then man disobeyed God, and then caused sin to come into the world. Right? According to our view, the material world itself, like there was never a time when the material world was perfect, right? But you could think of it as because I don't think that there's, lions and tigers eating, sheeps and lambs in the spiritual world, right? So if you think of, Genesis 1 and 2, I think it's 1 and 2, maybe the falls in 3. Somebody who's more acquainted with the Bible can give us exact um, chapters. But if you think about it as an allegory for the Jiva's fall from Krishna Loka, then, I haven't read specifically, but it would be very hard for me to believe that, there's tigers who are eating lambs in the spiritual world. So, you know, like if you view it as an allegory, everybody in the spiritual world was vegetarian. So, in the Garden of Eden, everybody was vegetarian, right? And then, uh, you could leave it to Shori. I knew somebody was going to put it in the chat. Uh, Genesis 1:29-30. God commands all living beings to be vegetarian. Uh, so, yeah, if you view the fall as allegorical, which, there's an argument to be made for that because Adam is actually just the Hebrew word for person, right? I mean, either man, as in like specifically male, or man generally, as in like anybody, right? So it should be like, man fell from the perfect, people fell from the perfect situation, which is in our Shastra, like just in more detail, right? So,
Because it's very difficult for me to understand this concept. And if I ask if there is any Vedic literature in our Shastras in some this, because Krishna, as we know, created them for the purpose. So there are non-vegetarian living entities and living entities in the bodies which are meant to consume.
yeah, so I think the discrepancy is kind of what I mentioned earlier, in that in the Judeo-Christian idea, this world was in a perfected state at one point, or in a perfect state at one point. Uh, that then sin entered the world through the disobedience of Adam and Eve to God, right? But it's the same world, right? For us, there's a perfect world, spiritual world, and then an imperfect world, material world. So, like the tigers in the material world were never vegetarian, right? But the tigers in the spiritual world, if there are any there, probably, right? And then, of course, the Judeo-Christian worldview is that, or at least the Christian worldview, some in Judaism as well, but isn't talked about so much, or as much as the Christians talk about it, is that there will be a perfect world again, that this world will become perfected. at the end of time, right? Because there's no yuga cycle in their worldview. I don't know what the commentators say if, when Jesus comes back, if we'll all be vegetarian again. Uh, I think a lot of Christians would be disappointed if that were the case. Uh, 'Cause at least in America, part of, like the culture is, meat eating. Um, but yeah, I don't know if somebody can pull out a quote from Revelation that talks about it. But
Although I was born to do not karma in this type of culture where Christianity was dominating, but still was not very helpful, very convinced to understand the concept of like
hmm,
this life.
yeah. Leela Kishore is also specifying that it wasn't a fall, it was a choice based on envy. And wanting to be exactly like God. That's true. I'm just using fall because that's the term used in a lot of literature. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jaya Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Shri Radhe Damodara Radha Damodara Shri Radhe Jaya Radha 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 Damodara Radha Damodara Shri Radhe Jaya Jaya Lita Shakalanta Sakashira Jaya Lita Shakalanta Sakashira Jaya Lita Shakalanta Sakashira Jaya Nitai Gaura Sundar Nitai Gaura Sundar Gaura 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 Jayo Prabhupada, 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 Yo Prabhupada, 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 Jayo Prabhupada, 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 Jayo Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada,
You're doing so nice. Sri Guru Charana Kevala Bhakti Sarva Kevala Vando Vishavadana Mare Vando Vishavadana Mare Yaharahanta Evatori
Yahara prasade bai Baba Toriya Haya Yahara prasade bai Baba Toriya Krishna Bhakti Krishna Prabhu Jaya Na Prabhu Jaya Yo Mosa Padma Gita takes John में John Sabuda Christian John में John में prophet Ari Saga Kiredo Dashi Adya John Kiredo Dashi Bena Bhakti, Bena Vidya, Gita, Bena Bhakti, Bena Vidya, Vedega Yara Sarita,
Namo Krishna Krishna Mudati Prema Bhakti Chita
if you cannot stop it, it's enough. It's not. Krishna, 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 Ram, 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 Krishna,
not. Later we shot the Puja. Chorus. Panchata. Sing Bhagavatam. Jaya Gesi Bhagavad Puja.
Shila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Shri Bhagavatam Sri Radhakachari Asatam Shishma Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Kismara Prabhupada ki Jai. Ananta Krishna Vrinda ki Jai. Skabguru Vrinda ki Jai. Nama Acharya Shri Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Iskandra Fanga Acharya Shri Prabhupada ki Jai. Prem se Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Vivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopakuna Samakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham ki Jai. Mayapur Dham ki Jai. Bharaka Dham ki Jai. Bharga Mai ki Jai. Yamuna Mai ki Jai. Tulsi Maharaj Jai. Bhakti Dev ki Jai. Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki Jai. Oh, Premanakti. Vrinda ki Jai. Oh, the Lord assemble the devotees in Krishna. Let's assemble the devotees in Krishna. Oh, the Lord assemble the devotees in Krishna. Oh, glory to the Lord, Shishi Bring over. Other spiritual master is always very pure and worship scenes. And while us to speak with very high thoughts. Is in a stop and not turning in self-sufficient. It's just that it's purified and wisdom and need to show us knowledge. Attachment is not just with this purpose, but she puts causes in place. You don't like it nice and nice and kingdom to knowledge. I don't know if it's up to the from thinking that we needs and that we need to destroy. And this is the third. It's usually as this person knowledge. Last closest to what is all last amazing. You just change last with the prayers of the God. The Lord, change we allow you go down the thing. You learn certain class. Oh, okay. Did you do that? Is that still? Is this a microphone? Yes.